Welcome back, John, to the World XP podcast. It's been a little while. Our resident sports expert, John Markle.
Glad to be back. I love being on this podcast, and I love talking sports with you.
All right, so for those who have been living under a rock, the NBA playoffs has started, and also the NFL draft is this coming Thursday. We're recording this on Sunday, the 24th. So we had to bring him back, get his opinions on both NBA playoffs and the draft. Other housekeeping, if you're enjoying the content, click subscribe, like, comment, go check out John's blog. Link will be in the description, all sorts. He's got a 3-round mock draft up on his blog, and I think another maybe more finalized mock draft will be coming in the next couple days. So stay on the lookout for that. Then we'll see how right he is for every single pick.
Yeah, I'll probably get the first 2 picks right, and after that, it's all downhill, just like my NCAA bracket.
Oh, well, I mean, I think most people's brackets were busted this year.
Yeah.
All right. NBA playoffs. I guess we can start with the East because that's where we are. And we can go matchup by matchup. The only one that I've been paying attention to is the Miami Atlanta series because I'm a Miami fan. So yeah, we'll start with that. What are your thoughts thus far?
Well, my thoughts of that series, it's a lot of people don't pay attention to it, but they should, because Miami is the best team in the East. They were the best team in the regular season. They've showed it so far in the series with Kyle Lowry. Yes, he got a little bit hurt, but he's a trooper. He'll push through. He's a guy out of Philly. So he'll push through. He'll play. He won't back down from a fight. He's shown it. He showed it with Toronto. He's shown it with Miami. And then you've got, of course, Jimmy Butler. Put up a 40-point performance early in the series. And every game, he's just getting better. He's proving more and more how clutch he is in these playoff moments. And then you have Miami's got great bench presence. They can rotate guys with their starters. I know they have PJ Tucker usually as the starter, but you got guys coming off the bench like Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. These are fantastic scorers and shooters. So that makes them a legitimate threat. And I don't see how Atlanta gets through this series alive, because Miami's just too good.
The one concern I have is we've blown some leads. Obviously, we blew the lead in game 3, but the other thing with Lowry's injuries, I think was it reported as a hamstring?
I believe so, yes.
Those could be kind of tricky. So hopefully, fingers crossed, we can get the win. I think we're playing today, aren't we? I'm pretty sure we're playing today.
Yeah, you play tonight at 7 on TNT.
Hopefully we get through that. We can get through that win, and we can get through the rest of the series without him and let him rest up, because that would be nice to get him some rest. The other thing that I noticed in this series, having not paid attention to the Heat for a lot of the season, was the undrafted guys that Coach Spo and Pat Riley have done it again. Nick Struss, Caleb Martin, and Vincent. Just like, I don't know how they continue to do that.
No, it's been incredible. You hit the head on the nail. Like, Struss has been phenomenal. He's been shooting beyond the arc, lights out. He's better in the corner, I find, than maybe at the top of the key. But when he's shooting the ball, he's just great. And it's like, okay, they go to guard Jimmy Butler, or they go to guard Lowry or somebody else, like, bam. And you leave a guy like Struss open, and he's just able to hit these shots. And it's pick your poison, but either way, the Heat are going to score on you. It's just, how can you stop them? That's the problem for a lot of these teams, especially Atlanta for now.
Yeah. I think last point on them, Game 3 looked like that was as good a performance as you're going to. I know Trae Young didn't play well, but as a team, it looked like one of those games where it was like they played almost as well as they could have, and they squeaked it out. And so for me as a Miami fan, I'm like, all right, that's fine. Y'all can have that one. Yeah. We'll win the next 2, and then fingers crossed, obviously. But like tonight, I think is a must win. If it gets to 2-2, then it'll be tricky. But I think we'll be all right.
Yeah, and I agree. I think if it goes 2-2, it can be tricky. I mean, as a Sixers fan, it was last year. I mean, Atlanta's a great team. Trey Young, DeAndre Hunter, who didn't play last year, is playing this year.
Mm-hmm.
Kevin Herter. You got John Collins. You've got guys who can definitely play. But I think Atlanta's just still missing another star to play alongside Trey Young in
Mm-hmm.
order for them to really go somewhere, like to really make a deep impact in the playoffs.
Yeah. I think we'll see maybe another year of development from Hunter and Collins, and maybe
Yeah.
maybe one or two other pieces. They'll be there next year. All right, second series, Boston, Brooklyn. Obviously, giving the seedings, you'd expect the 3-0 Boston to be where it is. But given the talent that Brooklyn has, everyone expected this to be a much closer series. Although the games have been pretty close, even though
Yeah.
Boston's been up 3-0. The only thing what I know about this series is that Boston has done an extremely good job on Kevin Durant,
Yes.
given the length and stuff that they have. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and I picked Boston in the beginning of the series just because of that. They have the length and the guys who can guard. They have Marcus Smart, the defensive player of the year. He's not typically guarding Durant, but you got guys like Grant Williams, Jason Tatum, who have great length, great height, and are agile. They can move. That's the key thing, is that they're big guys who can move. Um, they're not like your typical general centers or power forwards, which will just stay in the key and move maybe 5-10 feet here and there. No, these guys will move with them, like PJ Tucker of the Miami Heat. And that's what makes that's what Durant's having such a hard problem with. And you saw it last night. For those who watched, Durant was just struggling basket after basket, especially in the fourth. It was like, where's the all-star that we and this MVP that we've appreciated as fans? Like, where is he? Because this isn't the Durant that we're accustomed to. And now you're like, okay, yeah, they're getting Ben Simmons maybe for this game 4, but this Ben Simmons hasn't played in a year, really. He hasn't been on the court with other guys against teams that are in his face, breathing down his neck, that sort of thing. And so he'll only be playing maybe 15 minutes next game. Is that really going to help them get over the hurdle and get them back into the series? Maybe, but I just don't think so. I think Boston's got this.
What's your take on the I've seen a lot of tweets that Steve Nash is the worst coach in the NBA. What's your take on that, right? Because I've not paid that much attention, but I watched Steve Nash's interview with JJ Redick. I think it was like almost a year ago at this point, but and some others, and he seems like he has an idea of what he wants, like how he wants his teams to play, and
Yeah.
and but I haven't really watched to know, like, is there any validity to these hot takes, or is it an overreaction due to them being down 3-0?
I think there might be a little bit of both. I mean, I can't really say because I'm not there, but like, if he wasn't a good coach, he would be fired. He would have been gone a long time ago. And we've seen moments where it's been Durant and Kyrie where they put on performances where it's been like they're putting together 75 points between the two of them, and then stopping Brooklyn from scoring is virtually impossible. So yeah, he doesn't really have that playoff experience. I mean, he's been in the playoffs before as a player, but he hasn't been a coach in the playoffs really that much. And
Mm-hmm.
so he's going up against a team. Okay, yeah, it's a new coach in Boston, but this Boston team has so much playoff experience. I mean, they know what they're doing. And so I think that's the problem more so, is that there's guys, yeah, Durant's been there, Kyrie's been there, but there's these young guys on Brooklyn that haven't really seen playoff time. And now they're being told to put on this performance while one of their leaders, Durant, is just struggling tremendously.
Mm. You think they keep him around next year, Steve Nash, and then they give him you think they give him like a full year with Ben Simmons, assuming he's healthy, to
Yeah,
see kind of how that works out?
I think they do give him another year. I mean, yeah, they aren't. The expectation was an NBA championship. Um, but that's not entirely his fault where they are now. Like if Kyrie, let's say he had been vaccinated, but I know sometimes it's for religious purposes, and I'm fully understanding of that. But if he had gotten vaccinated in the beginning of the season with Durant, it's highly likely that they wouldn't have been in the playoff or the play-in series. They would have been probably a 4 or 5 seed at the worst. And then if he, who knows, if Kyrie had been there in the beginning of the year, would they have traded Harden? Would they, even if they had traded Harden, they'd have Ben Simmons. Like they would have more time being as a unit than Kyrie Irving playing only away games for a limited amount of time until the very end of the season and then leading into the playoffs. And now you've got Ben Simmons, will he play or not, trying to factor him in some way. And so, yeah, I don't think Nash is fully to blame.
Yeah. The Harden situation is a bit interesting for me. And so we'll skip the Milwaukee series to jump into the Philly Toronto one because the Harden is a good segue into that. But the Harden one is interesting. When they were doing the All-Star draft, did you see that clip of like
Yeah,
of Barkley saying like, "Oh, Hart, like he'll play tomorrow"? It's like,
yeah,
what's your take on what's going on? Because he put up a couple good performances in Philly, I think, when he first got there, and Embiid was like, "Oh, he's amazing," and then after that, you haven't really heard much. Has he even been playing?
yeah. So he's been playing, but the thing is with Harden, first off, he's not as fast, and it's visible. He's not as fast as he once was before the hamstring issues last year. So getting off the edge and turning the corner, he's a little bit slower. Aside from that, though, he's still a fantastic player. But why he's not getting this high attention is because he doesn't have to be that star that he was in Brooklyn. He doesn't have to put up 30 points a game, a night. He all he has to do is facilitate the ball, maybe score 15 to 25 points, somewhere in between there, because he does have other guys around him like Embiid, Maxey, Harris. He's got guys around him who can also score. So it's a different role than he had in Houston and in Brooklyn. He has a lighter role that makes it easier on him, I feel like, and also easier on everyone else because, I mean, sometimes he can be a lot, personality-wise, but he's been fantastic. I mean, he hasn't said really anything negative. He's been a team player, and that's good to see.
So I think you guys are up 2-1. You guys being Philly, correct? You guys are up 2-1.
No, we're 3-1.
3-1. Okay, so what's been your thoughts so far? Because I think Siakam had a couple of good games, didn't he? And then it just seems to me like Toronto just doesn't have enough, really.
Yeah, so we were up 3-0 until yesterday. Siakam put up a playoff high, career playoff high yesterday. Yeah, he then went on to proceed and call Joel Embiid soft, basically. So I don't think Embiid's going to take that too kindly. Embiid did give the refs a sarcastic clap at the end of the game because I mean, yes, Embiid and Harden, that's their game. Is they do things to try and get you into foul trouble. That's just what they do. But I did feel like, in general, there were some missed calls here and there, both sides. But there were a few calls that Embiid should have gotten for fouls on the Raptors, calls on him. But as far as the series as a whole, it's been dominant Philly. Raptors, was it game 2 or 3? They had like a huge lead, like ridiculous lead. The only reason why it wasn't more present was because Boston came back against Brooklyn. But Toronto had a huge lead. Thought it was all Toronto. I think it was game 3. All Toronto. And then here come the Sixers. Usually Sixers, what we're accustomed to is seeing, okay, the Sixers have a sizable lead. They've got like a 10 to 15 point lead, and then them blowing it gradually like they did with Atlanta. And so it's a little bit different because we're not seeing that. We're seeing, okay, they're playing consistent basketball. If they are behind, we see, hey, they can make a comeback against Toronto. Now, Toronto, they're missing a few guys. So it's hard to say, can they do that against, I think, yeah, they'd be playing Miami basically next series. If Miami continues and if Philadelphia continues, but can they do that against a Miami? Probably a little bit more difficult.
Gotcha. Makes sense. All right, so let's get on to the last series in the East, and then we'll go kind of predictions for the rest of the playoffs in the East, and then we'll move to the West. All right, so we got Milwaukee, Chicago. I think they're actually playing right now. Let's take a look at the score. Oh, Milwaukee's up by 17. Yeah, so
19.
So that'll put it up 3-1, assuming they don't blow that lead. That's another one that seems like another one where it's like Milwaukee just has a bit too much for Chicago.
So it's weird because it was 1-1 in the series, and then you hear Chris Middleton's out for at least the rest of this series and probably the entire next series, which can be a real problem for them if they were to continue into the next series and play likely Boston, because Boston's been fantastic. They've been probably the best team in the East so far this playoffs. But as far as the series goes, I mean, Milwaukee's played great. Grayson Allen has stepped up. I mean, he's been shooting 20 plus. He had 22 above 20 points last game, and then he has over 20 this game. Drew Holiday has transformed into this well-rounded guard that plays fantastic defense and can shoot the ball as well. And then, of course, you have Giannis, one of the MVP candidates. You got to basically double team in order to stop him. And so I think it's a little bit too much for Chicago, but I thought Chicago would put up a little bit more of a fight especially after Chris Middleton went down, because they've got DeRozan. Even without Lonzo Ball, they've got DeRozan, they've got Vucevic. So they have
Zach LaVine is still there also, right?
Yeah, and Zach LaVine as well. So I'm a little surprised that they've kind of just slugged off. I thought they would be a little bit better matchup.
All right, predictions time. So you got Miami to close out the series, you think?
Yep.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And so then that matchup in the second round would be Philly Toronto, which I think we both think that Philly will close that one out.
Yeah.
All right, so then we got Miami, Philly, and then the other two, Boston and Milwaukee, you think probably to close out the last two. So all the top four seeds move on. All right, so then we've got Miami, Philly. Who you got? You got to go with your team?
It was a pretty even series in the regular season, but Philly did hold back a few guys. Like, I think one or two of the games they didn't play Harden. One of them they didn't play Embiid. I think Embiid's a little bit too much for Bam, but I also think it's very difficult to guard. I mean, Philadelphia had problems. The reason why they lost last year is because they couldn't stop the perimeter shooting that Atlanta had, similar to what Miami has. They have Duncan Robinson, Tyler Hero. But I would say it's going to go, at least it goes 6 or 7. I don't think this is going to be a short series. I think the Sixers have just enough that I would say Sixers and 7, but it's a real toss-up, flip of the coin. Yeah.
I feel you. I got to go with my boys, of course.
Right. No,
of course. All right, then Boston, Milwaukee, and the other second round matchup. I feel like Boston has enough for that, especially if Middleton is still out.
Yeah, so this will be a little bit different of a beast, though, for Boston, because it's not like they're facing – Brooklyn doesn't really have a dominant center for power forward, and Giannis is that guy.
Yeah.
He dominates in the paint and such. So who do you have guard him? You can't really have Marcus Smart. He's too small. You can't have Jaylen Brown. He's not strong enough. It's hard to say. I would. I think as good as Boston has been, I'd actually take the Bucks in 6.
Bucks in 6.
Yeah.
All right. So we'll go off. All right. So we got Bucks, and then we'll do both. How about that? We'll do both matchups. Okay. So Bucks Philly or Bucks Miami. So we'll go Bucks Philly first. Who would you take in that one?
I'd actually go Philly. Now, this isn't. I mean, yes, it's a little biased, but in the regular season, there was a few guys who could really guard Giannis well, and one of them was Matisse Thybulle. Matisse isn't able to play. He wasn't able to play last game, and the game before that because of the COVID restriction, because he had gotten like one shot. I don't know. Basically, he couldn't play the last 2 games, but he was very good guarding Giannis in the regular season between him and Embiid guarding Giannis. And I would take the Sixers for that reason, is because they are very good at guarding Giannis. And with the status of Chris Middleton being up in the air, I think it's just too much for Milwaukee, even though they are the defending champs. I think it's just a little too much.
Yeah, they've looked a little bit worse this year than they did last year, I think. Also, so, all right. So if it goes Miami, Milwaukee, who you got with that one?
I'd also. It's a tough one, but I think as long as Kyle Lowry's injury isn't indefinite, like if he's out the rest of the postseason or something like that, or a long period of time, I would go Miami, because I think Kyle Lowry can match up against Drew Holiday. And then I think, Giannis will probably score in this hypothetical series. He'd score basically all over Miami. But you do have PJ Tucker. So PJ Tucker played with him and knows a little bit about him. So I think that would kind of provide an inside ability to help guard him.
Yeah, I think Bam also has he's got the right body type.
Right.
He's about, was he like 6'9", 6'10"? Giannis has an inch or two on him, but he can move as well. He's got the length.
Right.
So I don't know. We'll see. So basically, whoever wins the Miami Philly series is going to the finals, is what we're hearing.
That's what I'm thinking. Yep.
Yeah. I would take that. I think we can concur on that, sir.
Yeah.
All right. May the best man win.
As long as we don't blow these series.
Yeah, of course not. Right. This is all hypothetical. Knock on wood, of course. Okay.
Gotta make it to.
On to the West. Let's see who we got. So we got
well, it could be a series wrap in a few hours with this Golden State Denver series.
That's true. Wait, who won the other? Who's Phoenix playing? Phoenix is playing
the Pelicans.
The Pelicans.
Yep.
And then Minnesota is playing Memphis. Gosh. Oh, so it was the 7-8 teams that won the play. Okay, gotcha. All right. So we'll go Phoenix, New Orleans first. And they are Phoenix is up 2-1. Did the Pelicans win game?
Pelicans won game 2.
Game 2. Oh, so they took one away.
Right, yeah.
That's interesting.
Booker went down.
He's back though?
Let me check. No, he's still out.
He's still out. Oh, so that's quite interesting. All right, so this is a big game then, because they're playing in New Orleans, right? So what are your thoughts?
So I still think it's all Suns. It might not be Suns in 4, but it'll still be Suns, because I think if New Orleans, I mean, we could play ifs all day, but if New Orleans had a healthy, good Zion, this would be a little bit different conversation, but they don't. And for that fact, it's just Suns, because they've got too much star power. They've got DeAndre Ayton. They still got Chris Paul. Yeah, they've got Mikal Bridges. It's just too much.
Yeah, they've got a squad. I remember playing 2K 2 years
Mhm.
ago, and I got my player got drafted by the Suns. And like at the time, I think Kelly Oubre was still there, and there was one or two
Mhm.
others. But like that team then was like in 2 years, and all the players developed. It was like, oh, they might be quite good, and then here they are.
Yeah.
What's the status of Zion? Because I know he had the foot thing, and then they had like I guess a disagreement on how bad the foot thing was. Because I saw there was video of him throwing down like 360 dunks in some random gym
Right.
somewhere. It's
Yeah.
like, does anyone actually know what's going on with him?
I honestly don't think so. I think he's still recovering, but at the same time I'm like, if he's doing 360 dunks, what's his deal? You shouldn't be doing 360 dunks if you're telling everyone my foot hurts. Um, you should be first trying to build up to be able to run up and down the court after just taking standalone shots without having to move your feet too much.
Yeah.
Like
Was
it
it
just
broken?
seems I can't even remember. It's been that long.
Oh God. Well,
Yeah.
hopefully he's back next season. I know I had a couple of friends with him that couple of friends that like
Mhm.
partied with him at Beach Week when he was at Duke, and they said he was a really nice guy.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
hope he comes back
Yeah.
healthy and stuff, obviously. But
Right.
all right. So we'll say Suns to close that one out.
Hmm.
Let's see. Warriors Nuggets, the other one. Warriors are up 3-0. They play today, actually in
Yep.
about 30 minutes is tip off.
Hmm.
I think Warriors close this one out, probably.
Yep. I think they do. Between Jordan Poole, he's been amazing. You got Steph Curry, um, and you've got I mean, he's been there, but the absence of an MVP Joker.
Yeah.
um, yeah, there's a difference between the regular season Joker and the playoff Joker. Um, one shows up, one doesn't. And so I think that's another reason why last year I got a little bit upset because Joker won the MVP, but then he proceeded in the later on to was it like throwing a punch or he had a
Hmm.
scuffle
Yeah.
shortly after. And so I was like, do you really want the NBA being represented by a guy who yes, he wins the award, but then he goes to throw a punch at someone, regardless of what happens, you don't throw a punch.
Yeah.
So
He is averaging 30, 13, and 5,
right.
which is kind of nuts. But
Yeah. No.
what's been going, because I haven't really watched any of the games to be honest. So
Hmm.
Jordan Poole, people threw his name around during the regular
Hmm.
season, but also I'm just looking at the postseason leader stats right now on the
Hmm.
ESPN app. He's
Hmm.
shooting average like 9 for 14, which is was it like 65% or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
So this is not sustainable, you would think.
Hmm.
So what's been going on with like the series? Because just looking at some of the numbers, like Curry's been good, and then Clay Thompson, is he playing Clay?
I'm not sure if he was. I
Yeah,
don't
so
think he's starting, but he's playing.
it says he's
Yeah.
averaging 22 a game. Um,
Mhm.
so yeah, that's like but yeah, so surely the Jordan Poole thing, that's not sustainable, is it? I haven't watched, but I don't know.
I mean, based on how he's shooting, it appears so. It appears sustainable because he's been playing decent minutes, and it's not like he's just been hitting shots. I mean, some of the times it's not like he's totally open. It's just he's hitting them. And I think what's the problem is obviously Utah can't guard them, but you've got to guard Steph Curry. You've got to got to guard a Klay Thompson or an Andrew Wiggins. So it's like there's so many scorers that it's like, who do I choose to guard? If I guard one on one, there's a good chance they're just gonna dribble on me, do a step back, something along those lines, hit a three, and that's
Mm.
what they've been doing.
So maybe you can answer this question, but for
Mhm.
those, they seem to go a little bit under the radar during the regular season. Is that
The
fair to
war,
say? Yeah, the Warriors.
yeah, yeah, the Warriors do. I think it's been more recently because like it's been difficult with Klay Thompson. He's been battling season-ending injuries for 2 years now, and finally he's healthy, which is good. But I mean, they're not even at full strength. Like, even with Klay Thompson, they're still missing the center that they drafted 2-3 years ago.
Oh, Wiseman?
Yeah, Wiseman.
Is he
He's
out?
out.
He's done for the
Yeah.
season though, right?
Right. Yeah, Wiseman's out for the rest of the season. So this isn't even a full strength Golden State Warriors team.
So that's what's interesting
yeah.
to me because they went a little bit under the radar, kind of.
Mhm.
I guess just based on the fact that they weren't like guaranteed to
Mhm.
get to the finals like they were 4
Right.
years ago.
Yeah.
But they're still very good.
Mhm.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's just the same big three, basically. I mean, yeah, there's no KD, but you have a Steph, Clay, and Draymond that are still there. They've been there for a while. They have a great chemistry, and then they bring in these young guys like Jordan Poole, Gary Payton II. You even bring in like an Andrew Wiggins, Otto Porter Jr., and even Kevon Looney, and it's just the right recipe.
Looney's been there for a while as well. I think based on what I know, what you've told me, next year, if everyone is healthy, they could be on the short list of championship contenders.
Yeah, anytime you got Steph and then you add in Klay Thompson, you're definitely in the contender championship pool. Yeah.
All right. So we'll say Golden State closes that out, obviously. 2 seed Memphis is playing Minnesota. I'm also looking at the standings, and it just looks like from the last time I really paid attention to the NBA, everything looks upside down. Like Houston and OKC are just at the bottom, and like everything just looks topsy turvy. But we have Memphis, we have Ja Morant, and he's been playing insanely well, from what I understand. So what's going on with that?
So this has been a very interesting series. Basically, it's been a lot of highs and lows for both sides. For yesterday, it was Minnesota got out to a decent lead. They were up at half, and then they were up heading into the fourth, but then they were headed into the fourth, and then Memphis kind of came back, but they were able to hang on despite Memphis putting up basically, I think it was 5 more points than they did in the fourth, to win it by 1. But it's been a back and forth battle between just the big guys like Cat. You got Anthony Edwards for those 2 for the Timberwolves, and even not to forget D'Angelo Russell. But basically, it's been a battle of those big stars, the big young stars. Karl Anthony Towns, Anthony Edwards, and then, of course, Ja Morant, who put up a decent performance, but it was really highlighted last night with them by Desmond Bane, their other young star, a very good perimeter shooter.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So I see Anthony Edwards he's a rookie, isn't he?
Anthony Edwards, second year. Yeah.
So was he? Because he played at Georgia, right? And so I don't think there was not a lot of the I'll say the regular people that don't pay attention. He wouldn't have been on a lot of their radar because I don't think they did very well that college season.
No.
But he's turned into basically a borderline future all-star in the space of 2 years. So that kind of came out of did that come out of nowhere, or people knew this was coming?
No.
I saw Pat Beverly said that he was going to be like the next insert greatest of all time player. I forgot. I don't know. Remember if it was MJ or LeBron or whoever, but like Pat Bev said something like that. And then so what is so good about him?
What's been so good about him is slowly, I mean, I thought he was the best player out of the 2020 draft. I had him number 1 ranked. Even though he played at Georgia, you're playing in a competitive SEC. And so I thought he just needed a little bit of time to further develop his like shooting. That was one of his main struggles. He wasn't as good of an outside shooter. He would take a bunch of shots, but he just needed a little bit more development and then just become a better, like get a little bit better defensively. He was pretty good already, but needed a little bit of fine tuning. And so I think because he was only like, I think 18 when he got drafted, he just needed a little bit more experience. And now we're finally seeing, okay, he's gotten almost 2 years of coaching and he's now got some playoff experience. He's really, especially in this past month, has really stepped up into a prime role to help the Timberwolves long term.
Who you got coming out of the series?
It's tough. Can't even remember who I predicted originally. I think I chose the Grizzlies, but it was a hard choice because I really think Ja Morant is basically Allen Iverson of this current league.
Mm-hmm.
He might not put up 30 points like AI each night, but he has the moves and the quickness and the flair like AI had.
Yeah. So you're gonna go Memphis?
Yeah, I think Memphis, but again, it's a real toss-up because both these teams have done great and both these teams have also done bad at times.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's what you get with young teams. Inconsistency. Right. All right. The last series in the West, Dallas and Utah. Luka makes his return. I think Utah won anyways. So let's see. Did they win?
Yeah, Utah won.
So it's 2-2. What are your thoughts on this series? What do you think?
So I think Dallas has done a tremendous job without Luka because Luka is their best player. However, there's just something about Dallas that just, I don't know. It's like they can't put it together any year. They come close. They come really close. But then it's like they blow it in 7 games or 6 games or something like that. And I still feel like it's the same thing. I still feel like Utah, they've got more experience between Gobert, Donovan Mitchell, that sort of group, that it's just a little bit too much for them to handle.
So Utah, you got Utah going through.
Yeah.
All right. Prediction time. So hypothetically, all right, Phoenix pulls that out, and then they'll play Utah. You got who you got in that one? Phoenix in that one?
I think with Booker being back in this scenario, I got Phoenix.
All right. And then Memphis and Golden State, who you got?
Golden State.
Yeah, I would agree with that. All right, then Golden State Phoenix Conference Finals.
That's a tough one.
Yeah. I think that's another 6 or 7 game series for sure.
I'd like to see Chris Paul. I mean, unless it were against the Sixers, I'd like to see him get a championship eventually. But I'd have to say Golden State.
I was about to say the same thing, but with Miami, I was like, I'd love to see Chris Paul win unless it's against Miami. All right, so you'll say, all right, Golden State in the finals, and then against either we'll do Miami or Philly. We'll go Golden State, Philly first.
I think Philly, because I don't think Golden State has an inside person to honestly guard Embiid. And I think the same would go similar for Miami. Like they don't have a guy to. Yeah, you got Draymond Green, but can they really guard Draymond? Like PJ Tucker, I think could basically cancel out Draymond.
Yeah.
Draymond's a little bit better, but then who do you? I mean, yeah, you got Looney, but can he really guard Embiid or Bam? I don't think so. The only concern about Golden State for both scenarios would be they've got that shooting.
Yeah.
As good as Miami's shooting is, Golden State's is just otherworldly.
Yeah.
Come playoff
time. Insane. They're insane. All right. We won't make you pick an NBA champion. We'll leave it there. Well, fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Whoever comes out of that series, man.
Charlotte Hornets next year.
Oh, stop it. All right. Heard it here first. Whoever comes out of the Miami Philly series, that second round series, if both teams win their first round matchups against Golden State in the finals, we won't make them do the prediction.
Thank you.
We'll save them the torture, and we'll just make them do NFL predictions instead. But you already got your blog up. All right. So for those listening, moving on to the NFL draft, the NBA section is done. I think we've actually done a quite good job of splitting this up into good time segments so far. We went East, West, and now we'll go NFL. Let me switch my ESPN app over to NFL so I can quickly sound informed, even though I have no idea what's going on. And I can't even find the NFL. This is a great start. But give us your thoughts so far on what's going on. Who are the big names, people to watch out for? The NFL draft for dummies, if you will.
All right. Yeah, so your big name, your top dog will be Aiden Hutchinson. He's your defensive end edge rusher out of Michigan. I think of him as a Joey Bosa, basically, from the Chargers. He has great power, great versatility. He can make moves, get you jump in if you're an offensive lineman. He could use a little bit more physicality. I feel like that's his only knock, but he's a 6'7" guy. He was sacking everybody across the field last season. And I think he's going to Jacksonville at number 1 because I think he's just the best player. I think they need a leader in that locker room. And I think, it's good to have now a better head coach with Doug Peterson, who has been, he's a Super Bowl winning coach. And you need a guy who can take command. And I think Hutchinson's a great piece to have as that.
Gotcha. How do you want to go through this? I feel like we can go either team by team and say kind of maybe the big ones. Or we can do, I guess, a first round type deal. Is that maybe we can go first round? I can pull up your blog and you can go through it with everyone. Johnny Sports Blog. Here we go.
My headphones might lose power.
All right, let's see. Johnny Sports Blog 2022 NFL mock draft. Got it pulled up. All right. Here we go. All right. Hold on. There we go. Okay, go ahead.
All right. So first overall, Jacksonville. Basically the bottomless pit that keeps going, starting with Urban Meyer and their ownership. But basically, the only way to go is up, hopefully. But so I've got them taking Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end out of Michigan. He was the defensive player of the year of college football. He's got great size, great physicality. He's a leader. He was a leader for Michigan last year. Yeah, they didn't go as far as they really wanted to, maybe, but he was arguably the best player in college football of all of last year.
All right. Sounds good. Detroit Lions at number 2.
So Detroit's a little bit interesting because Detroit, they've got a young head coach who really did well last year. Detroit, they didn't have the record, but they stuck around in a lot of their games, aside from the one against Philly, which was a little bit odd for them. And even for Philly fans, they didn't expect that big of a blowout. But moving ahead, I've got them taking a risk. I've got them going with Kayvon Thibodeaux. He was the number 1 recruit coming out of high school. He was a defensive end at Oregon. Now, the risk is there's been a few things. He's compared himself to Jadeveon Clowney, which is a little bit of it's not the best comp you want to do because Clowney was a high draft pick, kind of fell off after a little bit. He's done well. He did well last year, but not the best comp. There's been times where people have questioned his work ethic. Like, is he putting in 100%? But I think this is the type of player that Detroit likes. They like somebody who's getting thrown out to the side, being told they're not good enough. And I think that's something they can really feed on. And with that high of a caliber guy, you can make him so good that he could be like a DeMarcus Lawrence.
That'd be. I mean, when you do these comparisons, are these like if they reach potential, this is kind of the player that they could be?
Yeah, and also it's that, and it's a little bit of a similar play style, like technique, what they were sometimes, what they are now, or what they were coming out of college as well. Those
Gotcha.
players.
All right. Houston Texans, number 3 pick.
So as bad as Jacksonville is, Houston could be worse. Starting with their Bill O'Brien. That's a name they don't talk about, like Bruno. And so I've got them basically they need every position. I mean, they probably won't go quarterback because they like Davis Mills, who didn't do too bad last year. But I have them taking Evan Neal because I think adding the best tackle to pair alongside who's it, Laramie Tunsil, who they got from Miami, would really round out that line and get a good evaluation. Is Davis Mills this guy? Because you could go next year, and if they were to fall as bad as the record was this year, or even worse, and get that number 1 pick, you could be looking at Ohio State's CJ Stroud at quarterback. So I think taking the best tackle is a good idea.
Fair enough. Logic makes sense. All right, the Jets.
So I've got them taking the Sauce, Sauce Gardner, out of Cincy. I mean, who doesn't love Sauce?
He's a big corner.
Yeah, and that's what you need in this NFL day and age, especially with your rivals, Miami Dolphins, adding a Tyreek Hill. Yeah, you gotta have somebody who can guard him. And Sauce Gardner was the best corner in all of college football last year. He did not let up. He didn't let up any touchdowns of long distance. He was tremendous in that Alabama game. Like, I think he didn't allow any passes above like 20 yards, that sort of thing. And he's just your best corner available. And that's what they need in that Jets defense. They need something in the secondary.
Fair enough. Right. How much of the draft is just taking the best player available for these teams that are bad versus fit?
Yeah. So a lot of them, it is the best player available. Sometimes it was like, sometimes I think maybe it's a little bit of a reach, but I think it's a better scheme fit. Like, do I think the quarterbacks are honestly that good? Maybe not as much. Like, I think your best quarterback this year is Garrett Wilson, who I have going to Seattle. He's he kind of reminds me of Russ in that he can really move around the pocket, and they need somebody eventually who can take over, because Drew Lock's probably not your answer. If Denver didn't want him and couldn't do anything, there's a good chance Seattle's not going to be able to do anything with an even worse offensive line. So it's a lot of fits, but it's also sometimes they are the best player available. But eventually you get to a point in the draft where it's just you're choosing the guy that you need, not as much the best player available.
Yeah. I feel like for some of these bad teams is like they have so many needs and fit needs that the best player available often fits something that they need anyways. So
yeah,
I don't know. All right, number 5, Giants.
So Giants are sitting pretty because they've got the number 5 and the number 7 pick. I've heard that they have received calls about 1 or 2 of the picks. So I've got them taking with their first one. I know Trayvon Walker is considered, he could go top 5, top 3. I know there's been talk of Trayvon Walker going first overall, even not to Jacksonville or even 2 to Detroit, but I think he slides to 5. And the Giants, they need an edge rusher, and so it kind of fits the profile. Take the best one available. Take this guy who was great at Georgia, but arguably the best guy at the combine.
Fair enough. All right, Panthers at number 6.
So Panthers, it's a toss-up because I know everyone knows they need a quarterback. They don't need a guy who's seen ghosts in Sam Darnold, but they also need an offensive line, because how do you have a quarterback do well if you have no offensive line? That's the dilemma.
Yeah.
So it's a real tough choice, and there is an existing relationship between Matt Rule, the head coach, and quarterback prospect Kenny Pickett at Pittsburgh. So Kenny Pickett is likely to be taken in the top 20, 25 picks, in my opinion. So Kenny Pickett could go here because Matt Rule did recruit him when he was still at Temple. But then Rule left for Baylor, and then Pickett decommitted and left for Pitt. So I could see Pickett here, but I see them taking Charles Cross out of Mississippi State, offensive tackle, because they just need offensive line help desperately.
Yeah. All right. Back to the Giants, number 7. You got them taking another offensive lineman. So there's been a lot of linemen going so far in the first round, or the top 10 picks.
Yeah. So the offensive linemen, there's a few. These top 3 are top 10 prospects. This includes Evan Neal, Alabama, who I had going to Houston, Charles Cross, Mississippi State, going to Carolina, and then who I think is actually the second best offensive tackle, but can also play guard, is Ike Ekwonu out of NC State. This guy is versatile. He can play offensive tackle and guard, but is likely to line up at tackle in the NFL. And the Giants, they need basically every position on the offensive line. So they need to save Daniel Jones. Yeah, they need to save Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
And honestly, they're running back as well. They need to save him.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, the injuries have been huge for him. All right. Atlanta.
Okay, so Atlanta, I've got them. Okay, so you have the whole Calvin Ridley betting on that whole incident. So I have them because they need somebody, because the only person they have to throw to is their tight end. And so they need a wide receiver, and Garrett Wilson's the best wide receiver available. Now I would say Jamison Williams before his ACL tear in the national championship was the best wide receiver, but for now it's Garrett Wilson. Well, Jamison Williams still out, because Garrett Wilson can run, catch. He can basically do it all. He doesn't have like elite speed. That's his only main knock, I think, and he doesn't block as well. But he can make himself open. He finds pass, makes himself open, finds a way to score, make a big play, and I think that's what Atlanta needs. They need something.
I know you have a Chris Godwin as your comparison, but I've not actually seen him play. Are we looking at kind of like a Cooper Kupp, Antonio Brown type, like undersized, not over the top end speed, but type player?
Yeah. I don't know. Cooper Kupp was amazing last year.
That's true. Fair enough. Maybe
I wouldn't
not
go that far, but yeah, some similar idea though. Yeah.
All right. Gotcha. All right. We got Seattle at number 9, and you've got, so Liberty actually is kind of, I'll say they're local-ish in Virginia. And this is not often you see a quarterback taken from a small school like this in the top 10.
No. So Malik Willis, he was a great college quarterback. He can run. He's got incredible velocity. Not like Patrick Mahomes' velocity, but he's got decent velocity and can make good touch passes when he's on the run, like just flicking it over. Yeah, the only knocks on him is that he occasionally makes a few mistakes, and he did have some difficulty with a little bit tougher opponents. And with these smaller schools, you gotta assess how good was he. If he was placed in, like, say, an SEC or something like that, would he have been as good? Because that's basically what he's going to now. He's going to an NFL caliber scene. And so he needs to protect the ball better. He needs to learn a few more things. So he'll be a developmental quarterback. So he'll probably sit at least for the first year maybe even 2 years before he sees starting time,
Yeah.
legitimate starting time. But I think this is a quarterback that kind of fits Seattle's bill in where they are, because they just sold off a lot. They just sold off Russ, possibly DK. It seems like restarting a little bit is the right way to go.
Do you see a lot of upside with him? Like for me, and I hate saying this because like I want everybody to do well,
Right.
but like for me, this screams like bust.
So
Like
yes,
it screams like another one of these like a Tyrod Taylor type that does okay for a little while and then kind of flames out.
yeah. So it's tough with guys like this, like Malik Willis, because I think he's definitely got the highest ceiling out of any of these quarterbacks. I mean, maybe Matt Corral, you could argue alongside with him, but he's got the highest ceiling. But with that comes also the lowest. So he could be a bust. And this quarterback class, it's been stated on record multiple times by a bunch of different sources, wherever you go, as not being that great of a quarterback class. So taking a quarterback this early on is a gamble. But I think in this scenario where Seattle would need, they'd be looking at a top offensive tackle. And for the top three to be off the board and the top corner to be off the board, it's either you're risking on him or you're going to probably risk on Derek Stingley Jr., the quarterback out of LSU, who didn't play at all basically of last year. So,
Well, hopefully he does well. I think at this point it kind of comes down, if he's got all the physical stuff, it comes down to mentality. So hopefully he's got the mentality and he's able to do well. Because obviously that's what that's what you want.
well, he could be a Steeler. He could be
Yeah.
a Steeler. That's another possible destination for him. So,
And I hope he does even better. All right, rounding out the top 10, we've got the Jets.
So this is interesting because, like I said, I don't really do hypothetical trades, and there's been a lot of chatter about Deebo Samuel. I just recently saw like a hypothetical trade where we would see the Jets trading their top 10 pick or their 10th pick and another pick and a player to San Francisco for Deebo Samuel, which would just make the offseason even crazier. But I have them taking actually a tackle. I know they could go wide receiver, and I know, yes, a wide receiver would really help their quarterback. So, but I think offensive tackle, because they did miss theirs. Their tackle was out basically all of last year, and you kind of need an insurance policy. And they did improve it a little bit, their offensive line, by signing offensive guard Laken Tomlinson, who was with San Francisco. But I think just providing another offensive tackle to help beef up that line would be the best thing. And then maybe later on address wide receiver.
Fair enough. Yeah, I mean, yeah. That's the thing with like you could do as much as you want on paper, but until the player, like you never really know what's going to happen. Drafting is kind of a crapshoot and a little bit of a little bit. All right, Washington Commanders at number 11. Whoever came up with that name should probably be fired. Honestly, I feel like they should just have kept it at Washington Football Team because that was like a nice throwback thing, and people had started to get used to it, I think. And the bad press I felt like was kind of behind them a little bit, and then they brought it all back. But I don't know. If you have thoughts, go for it. But otherwise, if we could just go with their pick.
Yeah, so I've got thoughts, but I'll go with their pick. So I have them.
So diplomatic of you.
Yeah, I've got them taking one of my favorite players, Kyle Hamilton. He's a safety at Notre Dame. Why he's one of my favorite players is because he doesn't. I mean, even if it was seen at the combine, he doesn't have like he ran a bad 40. Didn't have the highest metrics or anything, but when you see him play in the games, he's all over the field. He's making every play, and so I think with them losing their safety this past season, this will be a perfect fit. And then now the main knock on him is he did miss a little bit of the 2021 season due to a knee injury. And like I said, the speed is a little bit off. It's not that great. And safety is at the NFL level, safety's kind of become obsolete. Like there's been a lot of times where you take a safety and it kind of falls through. Like with Cardinals, they took Isaiah Simmons, who was a safety linebacker kind of breed, and we're still waiting for him to do something because he was so good at the college level, but then when he got to the NFL, nothing. So it's a gamble a little bit, but I mean, the other option for Washington would be wide receiver in this case, I think, for them. And I think they could go wide receiver because they could give Carson Wentz all the help he can get. But
that's true,
especially with only Terry McLaurin to throw to, really. So, but I think they go defense because this is just what Washington kind of does. You'd think they'd want to go wide receiver, even though it's like, even if a wide receiver is staring them right in the face, but then they go something else.
Well, their defense has been pretty good, hasn't it? I think.
Yes, so it's been good, but then it took a big drop off last year.
Well, yeah. That's just what they do, isn't it?
Yeah.
They also could have given Carson Wentz a different team name, but they didn't do that either. So
yeah, Carson.
All right. Let's see. All right, so we got the Vikings. Are there any other notables? Do you want to go through each one individually, or how do you want to do it? Because I feel like we're getting into like the range where the people will want to care about their team specifically, because we've kind of gone through the top. Here, how about this? Those of you listening, go to his blog if you want to check out your team specifically. He's got all of them on there. But we'll go through the rest of the notables, I guess. Yeah. Some of the local teams. We'll go through Baltimore and Philly and Pittsburgh. And Mustafa will go through New Orleans for you, dude. Yeah. And then if we missed anyone, go to his blog, check it out. Yeah. All right. Let's see. Baltimore at 14.
Yeah. Baltimore. In this scenario, I have him going Jordan Davis, regarded by some as the unicorn. This guy is a really nose plug defensive tackle. He didn't play all 3 downs at Georgia, so there's a little bit of a concern there. But he did pretty well at the combine. I think he's a good player. I think he can, as long as he doesn't gain too much weight and become basically, if he gains too much weight, there could be a real problem there. But if he stays under that weight, he should be a great player at the NFL level.
All right, fair enough. Next, we've got Philly at 15.
So Philly, they do love their Florida State edge rushers. They have Josh Sweat, who they just extended recently. And so I think they go Jermaine Johnson here. He was ACC Defensive Player of the Year this past year. I have them comped to Max Crosby, who's a great defensive end for Vegas. But this is him slipping. In all likelihood, he'll probably go between 15 and 10, somewhere between there. But he transferred to Florida State, came in last year, was great, played great against every team. He's got great explosiveness, and he just needs a little bit of development, especially with the containing guys with his shoulders. But other than that, great player.
Sounds like a good pick. All right. New Orleans Saints is 16.
Yeah. So your Saints, they've got a few things they got to address, but one is their top thing is wide receiver. Now, I know the Eagles could go Jameson Williams, and I wouldn't have any problem with that because he's my favorite wide receiver. But I think the Saints go wide receiver Jameson Williams. Yeah, he's supposed to be ready. I mean, he tore his ACL recently in that national championship. But
when was that? In January sometime?
Yeah, so that was in January, but his timetable is actually been sped up. Like he's recovering very fast, and with the ACL injuries nowadays, the timetables that they're able to get these guys back on the field is incredible.
Yeah, it's closer to 6 months than a year, which it used to be the other way.
Yeah,
So I
he
think
might be
he should
ready
be
by
good.
training camp.
Yeah, at least
Yeah.
preseason, I think. If not training camp, preseason for sure. This preseason, what is August-ish?
Yeah.
So yeah, he'll be back in doing stuff with them before the first game for sure.
Right. But he's a good deep ball threat. He can occasionally make sloppy cuts, but that's kind of his style. He does that. He does kind of goes all over the field, but he finds a way to get open.
Fair enough. All right, then we go 18 and 19, Eagles and Saints again. How did you guys end up with 4 of the 5 picks?
So we traded with New Orleans. Eagles traded with New Orleans. They acquired next year's first rounder from New Orleans.
Gotcha. All right, so 18, Philly, you got a corner.
Yeah, so Trent McDuffie, he's very fast, very athletic. He's got a little bit of short dinosaur arms. That's a main knock on him. But I think he fits the Eagles scheme well. Now, if they had their choice, they'd probably go Sauce, or even they could even go Andrew Booth Jr. here, but they're more of a cover one on third down and base coverage. They do a cover one format, and I think Trent McDuffie, he would pair well with Darius Slay. So, yeah.
Fair enough. All right, Saints again, 19.
So Saints here, I know they have Taysom Hill, Swiss Army knife, and I know they have Jameis Winston, who played very well when he was healthy. But if I'm the Saints, do I really think Jameis can A, stay healthy, B, is he the long-term solution? No. And so that's why I have him taking Matt Corral. I think Matt Corral, he did get hurt, and he does have injury issues similar to Jameis, as does every quarterback. He did get hurt in that bowl game that he was playing, but he's, aside from Malik, and even with Malik, he's probably tied first for my favorite quarterback because I love his leadership and I love his pocket presence. He knows how to pick up guys if they're coming, and while he doesn't have elite skill, he knows how to command it and how to release the ball well.
Fair enough. All right, 20, Pittsburgh Steelers. We need a quarterback for sure.
I think this is the match. Now, if Malik Willis were to slide here, I think he'd go here if he was available.
Better prospect, do you think, in your opinion, than Kenny Pickett?
So immediately, no. Kenny Pickett's your best immediate quarterback. He's kind of like Mac Jones. He'll have an immediate effect. Will he have the highest ceiling come 5 years? Maybe, probably not. But he can come in definitely and do something. Now it's interesting because you just signed Mitchell Trubisky. Can he be that long-term solution? Maybe it was just a bad setting for him. Maybe it was just he needed to get out of Chicago to become that great quarterback that he was number 2 overall. So, but I think either for Steelers it'll be quarterback or offensive tackle here.
Yeah, that makes sense. I would agree with that, even having watched not that much, but obviously with Ben retiring, definitely quarterback. I haven't seen Trubisky play enough to really know what version of him we'll get, because he's had flashes where he's been really good, and the other time it's been not so good. Hopefully the culture in the locker room, Tomlin will be able to get the best out of him, and maybe this pick will be kind of a moot point because he's still pretty young, isn't he? He's like mid-20s.
Yeah, mid-20s. He just played a year in Buffalo behind Josh Allen. So
true. Fair enough. All right. Any other notables that we got going down the list?
Other notables in the first round. One of my favorites would probably have to be Treylon Burks and Daxton Hill. I love these two guys, and I have them both going to Kansas City, of course. Former coach Andy Reid. So Treylon Burks, I have him going 29. He's considered like fourth, fifth by most, best receiver, but I think he's the next AJ Brown. He's got good size. He's 6'3", 225. He can block downfield. He's got great length. Good ball catching skills. He doesn't always play at 100% level, but I think that can change. I think he's got like a mentality where he can hit the NFL. And let's say he were to go to Kansas City, he would flourish with Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
I mean,
and they need another receiver because Tyreek Hill got traded, which is still kind of insane to me. But
right. And then I have him taking Daxton Hill with the next pick, another one of my favorites, because they lost Honey Badger.
Yeah.
He's still a free agent. I know New Orleans has been in talks with him. I know Philadelphia has been in talks with the Honey Badger, but I don't think he'll be signing before the draft. I think if he had done it, it would have been about 2 weeks ago. And since it hasn't happened since now, then I'd say he's probably going to sign after, which will make it interesting for teams because do you take a safety? Do you not? Like if you're Philadelphia and New Orleans who need one. But with Daxton Hill, I love his play style and his coverage skills at Michigan, especially this last year. Like in zone coverage, he was very good at picking up reads.
Fair enough. Sounds like a good pick to me. He's a bit undersized for a safety though.
Yeah, and he falls as a safety / slot corner.
Gotcha.
So both positions,
which is one of those guys with good instincts, good hands.
Yeah,
gotcha. Can kind of put him anywhere. He'll do a job for you.
Fair
enough. All right. I think we'll wrap up the NFL draft with that. Anything else in the sports world of note that's happened recently? I think this will come out tomorrow. So anything other noteworthy news that's been going on that you want to talk about?
No, I think the most noteworthy thing is I know that just recently, just a few minutes ago, it was actually stated that Embiid's going to have surgery on his finger after the season, but that will be minimal. I know the Bucks held on to beat Chicago, and that Golden State's just tipped off. But as far as stuff in the world, baseball's back. Love that. And I would say glad to see Arsenal take down Manchester United.
Yeah, man. Mikel Arteta's doing great things with them. It's really cool to see that, like, when you actually give somebody time who's got an idea of what he wants to do, give him a few transfer windows, it's like the fruits are coming. And once they sign another striker, maybe Darwin Nunez or something like that, they'll be next season will be interesting. Aside from that, actually, Champions League semifinals Tuesday, Real Madrid, Manchester City. Who you got?
Got Manchester City. I think they just got a slight edge.
Yeah. And then Wednesday, Liverpool, Villarreal. You got Liverpool?
Liverpool. Yep.
Yeah, I'd say so. If you had to pick somebody to win it, who you got?
I'd still have to go Manchester City. I mean, they're leading in the Premier League. They've been playing well. They have a lot of star power. It's just, I know as good as they are, but
yeah. All right. Well, with your headphones just dying, we've picked a great time to wrap this up. In Champions League final, I have no idea. They keep tying 2-2 when they play, so that's nuts. But all right, John, really appreciate your time. Always love learning about the world of sports. I come talk to you whenever big things are happening, and I have no idea what's going on, and you keep me informed, so I appreciate it.
Yeah. I'm glad to be here. I was happy to be part of this podcast yet again. And then hopefully by next time one of our teams will have an NBA championship.
Fingers crossed. We should make this like
Yeah.
a yearly thing, you know?
Yeah, if they start winning, then yeah, definitely.
Well, but I meant the podcast as well. NBA
Oh, yeah.
playoffs and NFL draft
yeah, yeah.
a yearly thing. Yeah, let's do it. We'll
Yeah.
mark that on the books for next year. All right,
Got
John.
it.
Have a good one, man.
Yeah, you take care.
And with that, we'll talk to you guys later. Peace.